So Parshas Va'era. Parshas Va'era. I'm not sure where to start. Quote of Yossi Zakatinsky, so I'll tell you a cute line he said. He started a shir one time. He says, Kol haschal kashis. The beginning is always difficult. So you know what? We're just going to start from the middle. You know, sometimes you don't know where to start, so you just dive right in. So that's what we're going to do right now. I want to share two varts in particular. One is a Sfas Emes, and one is Moshe Feinstein. So we get two different camps. Yeah, two different worlds. Okay, two different worlds. Vani akshes li parai. Famously, Hashem hardens the heart of parai, which thinking minds are very bothered by this story, that Hashem hardens his heart because what happens to Bechira? What's going on? He didn't have the ability to choose anymore. What exactly does this mean? So Rashi already starts and he says, because Parai didn't want to do good, Hashem led him down the road. Because he was evil and it was revealed to Hashem that he didn't want to come back, so Hashem led him down that road. So how we reconcile this with Bechira, it's really a medrash. I want to read you a few words of a medrash. The medrash says, Amar Reish Lakish. And this is a powerful line, and then we'll read the words of the Sfas Emes. Balitame, you want to do an Aveira? Paischin lai. Hashem opens up the door for you. Kima shehichbid Parai eslibai. Parai first was the Rasha. First Parai hardened his own heart. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ki ani achbati eslibai. Who hischil? So I'm going to continue. Let me explain what the Medrash says. You do one Aveira, Hashem says, you did one thing bad, I'll help you do the next one. So if we think about it, it's a little bit of a scary thought. It's called the slippery slope of life. You know, you slip once, and sometimes you wonder, what just happened? I made one mistake, and before you know it, you're like, Pasha bleeding on the ground. How did that happen? So sometimes the answer is, you took that step, and unfortunately Hashem removes his help from you, and you slowly fall. Now, not to focus on the negative, comes along the Sfas Emes, and he says, this sounds very scary, right? It sounds, you do one Aveira, before you know it, Hashem's not helping you. What does that mean? Says Sfas Emes. Can we flip this around a little bit? Im kein yesh lo yechiach. You know what I'm going to prove from here, says the Sfas Emes, Heilige Ger Rebbe? Mikol shekain, certainly, misha roitze believe shalom la'avda yisbarach. You want to do something good. You want to go to a shir. You want to do a chesed. You want to daven. And you don't want to not do it. You don't end up doing it. You don't get a chance to do it. You had in mind, you set the alarm, I'm going to wake up for Shachris. What happened? It happened. The kid woke up in the middle of the night, this, that, whatever. You missed the alarm. But you wanted to get up. You wanted to walk down that road of good. Just like Hashem removes and allows Parai to do evil, kimida toiva meruba. We always know that goodness always outweighs the opposite. So if we see that when someone does something bad, when someone does something evil, Hashem says, you want to fall? You want to slide? You want to say, I'm not interested? I'll let you keep on sliding? All the more so, says the Sfas Emes, when you try to do something good. You have the ratzon, you have the want, machshava toiva, a good thought, HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzdarif l'maisa. You have a good thought, Hashem says, I'm going to help you along. So it's a very encouraging. So let's not focus on when we slip, let's focus on the opposite. What does it take to do good? All it takes is the ratzon, the desire to go down that road. Now obviously we have to try. You can't say, it sounds very nice. I desire to daven and to learn and to this. And what am I going to do about my desire? I'm going to sit on my couch for the rest of my life. Obviously, that doesn't work. But if you take the first step, Hashem helps you. And the truth is, many, many times in people's own lives, they see this. Many times they see this. Often, anyone who's trying to do something good, he wakes up one day and he's like, how in the world did this just happen? How did I get here? Where did that happen? And it's such like a breath of fresh air that wow, I actually changed. And whoa, you know what that happened? that happens, says the Sfas Emes, because Midah Tova is greater. So when you try and you do a little bit, then what happens is Hashem helps you, and Hashem pushes you, and Hashem keeps you going. So when we keep on hearing, as we're going to hear throughout the whole Yetzias Mitzrayim Sefer Shemais, we're going to hear Hashem hardens Paro's heart, and we have the Makos, and we have the Nisim and Paro's, will you let my people go? No, I won't let my people go. And then we relive it again over Pesach. So what do we have to sometimes remind yourself? Let's not focus on Paro's evil. Let's use it as the chizik and the encouragement to say, you know what? I'm going to take one little step, one little bit more, and then Hashem will help me, and He'll push me. And then I'll take another step, and then He'll push me, and then He'll push me. And before we move on to Moshe Feinstein, I want to speak out something that I think is a little bit of a niggling thought when people hear this in the back of their brains. Sometimes they realize it, sometimes they don't. What's the niggling thought? Deep in the back of our psyche, sometimes when we hear this, we think, but I don't really want to change. We get very nervous that our human part of us says, so 1 second, we just learned, I do one step, Hashem will help me, okay, so that's good, but wait, what's going to happen? I'm going to start, I'm going to learn, and then maybe I'll dive in, and then maybe I'll learn more, but then I'm going to be Rechaim Kanievsky, and I'm not holding a Rechaim Kanievsky yet. And we sort of pull back because we're so afraid that what's going to be. So the real answer is, obviously it's a silly thought, because obviously that's part of growth, that's part of life. No one wants to be the same child their whole life. And in reality, we're just scared, because that's the human part of us, scared of growing up. It's scary to grow up. We spoke about in the shul about, giving in the pair of pants that are too short. It's scary to change. It's scary to change environment. It's true. Anyone who bought a house, anyone who changed a neighborhood, it's scary. It's scary diving into a new world, a new this, and that. So why did you do it? You did it because you said, it's time, and I'm going to dive in. And you dive in for the good reasons, and you find a good thing, and then eventually Hashem helps you along. So just to speak out, that I don't think we have to be so afraid, oy vey, I'm going to end up this really from crazy, who knows what, and I'm going to look in the mirror one day, and I'm going to say, oh, that's not me. I don't think we have to be so worried. Just to point it out. So let's go to Moshe Feinstein. Moshe Feinstein, on this week's Parsha, is an incredible idea. The reason why it's an incredible idea is because there's a classical pshat. There's a classical pshat, which I'll speak on in a moment. I think I even might have mentioned it in shul last week. And Moshe adds on one line, which could be life-altering. What's the classical pshat? The pasuk says, "Hu Moshe, hu Aaron, hu Moshe," and Rashi says there are some times that Aaron comes before Moshe, and there's sometimes that Moshe comes before Aaron. Why? To teach us sheshkulim ke'echad, that they're equal. So what's the obvious question? They're not equal. He was Moshe Rabeinu, the greatest human being to ever live, and he was Aaron HaKohen. Aaron is wonderful. What does that mean? He's shkulin. He's equal to Moshe Rabeinu. So from here, the basic idea, which in my notes I've written down that it's Rav Yerucham, but it's a famous idea. We'll say Rav Yerucham. I'll hope my notes are correct. That if you do what you need to do, you reach your potential. You reached Moshe Rabeinu. That's what it means, that everyone has the power to be like Moshe Rabeinu. What does it mean? You in your life. What does that mean? For one person, that means to learn an hour a day. That's his potential. You do that, you're as great as Moshe Rabeinu. For another person, you're selling yourself short. It means doing more. For one person, it might mean doing incredible chasadim. For someone else, it might mean doing incredible this. But if you maximize your potential, which of course is a lifelong work to figure out what is my potential, what am I supposed to be doing? But of course, part of life is to try, is to work. One of the reasons, if you ever think about it, why do we want the Beis HaMikdash? Why do we want the Beis HaMikdash? You know why I want the Beis HaMikdash? A little bit of a different reason than most people say. Because then we're going to have Nevi'im. And what's a Navi going to help us? He's going to tell us what our avodah is. A Navi could look at us and say, you should be learning. You should be davening. You should be doing chesed. You should open an organization. And you should do this. Clarity. When there's a Beis HaMikdash, when you're living in Hashem's house, there's no questions like, should I do this? Should I do that? And obviously that's the biggest difficulty in life. If we were to know with certainty that this is what we should do, it would be much easier. if someone would tap us on the shoulder one day and say, by the way, your avodah is to wake up an hour before davening. It wouldn't be so difficult because we know that's what we're supposed to do. The difficulty is, should I do this? Should I do that? Well, I'm trying here and I'm trying there and I'm this. So that's just on the aside. But that's the classical pshat, that there's shakel, which, by the way, is a fabulous idea, which we should think about for a moment. That means that if we do what we're supposed to do, we're as great as Moshe Rabeinu. But I want to read you a line from the Heilige Moshe Feinstein. Obviously, Moshe Feinstein did not write Darash Moshe. This is from his Shmuzim. Igros Moshe was written by his pen. Dibros Moshe was written by his pen. Darash Moshe was written by Talmidim. Talmidim, they say it's very accurate, but it's, you have to know, is it the pen of the Rebbe or Moshe or not? So it isn't, but it's still worth a lot. So he asks a question, and he says what we just said, that what do you mean? Moshe Rabeinu is the greatest. And he says, I can answer in one of two ways. I'm going to read you one line. The Kivon, the Gam Aroin, listen carefully. And the example, the mashal we're going to give is the Israeli bus driver, the 7 bus, which goes where? No? 0 to 10. No, 0 to 10 goes to the Kaisel. It stops by. It could be there also. 0 to 10 goes to the Kaisel. So the mashal in a moment is going to be the 7 bus driver goes to the Kaisel, maybe also, versus the 77. The 70s that I do know goes to town area, Rachavi area, Keren Yisai, Keren Kayamet over there, 70s. So those are going to be the 2 bus drivers, which we're going to get to in one moment. Says Moshe Feinstein, Gam Aroin hayu b'shlichus Hashem l'Yitz Yisrael. What was Aaron HaKohen doing? He was being Moshe Rabbeinu's right-hand man. He was part of the mission. He was going, Moshe was talking, he was helping, he was hitting the water, Moshe was talking, he was doing his part. Af shekoyach Moshe gadol mishal Aaron. It's true. The power of Moshe is greater. Listen to this line. Mikol makom. Kivon shegam Aharon hutzrach liyos bazeh. Aaron had a role he had to do. Moshe Rabeinu had his script. Aaron had his script. Yes, Moshe Rabeinu was the lead actor. Yes, he was the greatest. But because Aaron also had what he needed to do, hein shavin bazeh. They're equal. Shach bechilek sha'gadol tzarich lekatan. The job, the portion that the main actor needs the supporting actor, hacholkin birevach. So what's the mashal of the bus drivers? One day, the 77 bus driver wakes up, he's talking to his friend, the 7, and the 7 bus driver is telling him how every day he drives to the Kaisel, he sits there, holy Jews, sitting there saying Tehillim, he gets to see the Kaisel every day, and the 77 bus driver says, you know what? I don't want to be the 7. I get to drive down who knows where. My bus is half empty. So what does he do? He goes and he changes the number on his thing. Whether it's digital or not, he changes the number, takes off one of the 7s. He's the 7. Beautiful. And what does he start doing? Driving to the Kaisel. And he goes and he's picking up passengers and he is so excited. And that first day, his bus is full. All the passengers are like, 7 comes and another 7. Amazing. And it's full. And he goes to the Kaisel and they're saying, he sees the pastor saying Tehillim and holy Jews. And he's so excited. The second day, Mr. Eged calls up and he says, whatever his name is, he says, please come to my office. Okay, comes in and he says, what's going on? He says, oh, it's the best. He says, what do you mean? He says, oh, I switched. I became a 7. I'm going to the Kaisel now. It's amazing. And the guy in charge of Eged says, you fool. What about all the people stranded now that are trying to take a 77? Well, what about them? He says, who cares about... He says, genius. There's a whole network of buses. Yes, going to the Kaisel special. But if we don't have the guy picking up the passengers over there, then this guy can't do his job. If Aaron HaKohen is not the supporting actor, the main actor can't do his job. If you were to go to the Broadway and you're going to take away all the supporting actors, it's not going to be a good show. So in the big picture of things, the supporting cast is equal to the main player. Aaron HaKohen has the same level, the same olam haba, the same schusim. Okay, Anil, same olam haba, different. He did, he didn't. Who cares? Let's leave that up to God. But what do we see from this story? is that, again, every person has what he needs to do. And when we do what we need to do, we don't have to be worried, but that guy's doing more, and that guy does this, and this guy does this. What does it have to do with you? He was supposed to start that organization, and you were supposed to daven a beautiful Shemona Esrei. And he learns for 5 hours a day, and you're supposed to sit and learn for 20 minutes a day. And he goes and he does this chesed, and you're supposed to do the chesed in your house. Everyone has their personal avodah, and if everyone does what they need to do, shkulin ke'echad. So often we want to be the Moshe Rabeinu. We want to be on the front cover of the magazine. We want to be starting the biggest organization. We want to be the biggest this and the biggest that. And you know what? Beautiful. Dream big. We all love dreaming, and if you dream big, you'll do big things. But we also have to remind ourselves that as long as we're doing what we need to do, what does it mean what you need to do? And everyone knows what they need to do. Yes, it means do what you do and add a little bit more. A drop more kavana, show up a dot earlier, push yourself to learn a little bit more, do an extra chesed, an extra smile, one more nice word. You're doing all of that. You are shakal, you are equal to the greatest person you know. And I guess it passes your Moshe Feinstein. I mean, Moshe and Moshe Lekam Moshe, they used to say from Moshe Rabeinu to Moshe the Rambam. And then latter people wanted to say Moshe Rabeinu, Moshe Feinstein, who they say was a Yid living, 100 years before his time, after his time, if you could compute what that means. And he's teaching us, do what you need to do. So was Moshe Feinstein as great as Moshe Rabeinu? Of course not. Moshe Rabeinu, Tzias Mitzrayim, everything? Yes, he was. Because he maximized his potential. And each and every one of us can maximize our potential as well. And the bracha that we'll end with is that hopefully, as long as we follow the words of the Sfas Emes, which is what? Trying to push a little bit more. Not sitting complacently. Taking another step. Allowing Hashem to help us. Allowing our greatest Father to say, you tried to wake up? I'm going to let you wake up. You tried to do the chesed? I'm going to give you an opportunity to do another chesed. You tried to help this? I'll give you another opportunity to this. And the more that we try to let Hashem help us, ultimately, where will we get to? We'll get to doing what we need to do, fulfilling our potential, and being in Mirza Hashem shakal equal to no one less than Moshe Rabeinu himself.